No one told us who they were. There was no way of knowing. They didn't look like anything special, sitting there in the corner of the room staring at us. The man was jotting down notes on a pad like he was a journalist or something, but so what? I'd have expected them to have a bit more about them, considering who they turned out to be. The man had a streaming cold, which made his nose red from wiping. I remember thinking I didn't want to go near him in case I caught it. He had a big old jumper with a high rolled-up collar, like the sort of thing my dad might wear when he went fishing. And it wasn't that clean either. The lady was old, well over 50 I'd say, with long grey-brown roots showing in her red hair. She was wearing sunglasses, which was weird because it was evening and the lights in the hall weren't that bright where we were. If I'd known who they were, I would have put on a bit of makeup, and I probably wouldn't have let myself go quite so emotionally in the same way I did. I look pretty crap without makeup on, and that's not me being modest, it's a fact. I'm about the only person from an estate, from a mixed family, who's come out looking like a fucking albino. Most of the others come out looking gorgeous with caramel complexions, and I'm even paler than Dad. When we're as a family, I must look like the freak puppy of the litter. If I don't wear makeup, my face disappears. People are amazed by the transformation, which is a bit insulting, really. Dora says it's great for an actress, that I'm a blank canvas. And I can see where she's coming from. I can pretty much paint anything onto my face and become whatever I want. But still, it'd be quite nice to have some dark eyelashes so I don't look like I've got no eyes at all. Don't get me wrong, I do usually put on makeup before I go out. Sometimes even before I come down for breakfast. But sometimes I just can't be arsed, and this was one of those days. I wasn't feeling that well, to be honest. It was pretty tiring, and that's probably why I got a bit emotional. It was really tiring working all day and then having Dora screaming down your neck, abuse all evening. I'd come straight from work, straight to Dora's, and I hadn't eaten anything, and my period had just started, and, well, that's probably a little bit too much information. Tell me something from your life that makes you feel really sad, Dora had said. Steffi, you go first, and make it truthful, for God's sake. That was so out of order, because I was always truthful when it came to acting and stuff. The fight from the previous evening was still fresh on my mind, so I just went for it. I love my dad to bits, I said, but sometimes he can be a real bastard. It's the Guinness, especially when he mixes it with vodka. We all usually know when to stay out of his way, but for some reason we didn't spot the signs, and he just exploded like an atomic bomb. He had Mum by the throat, and he was squeezing the life of her, and we were all shouting at him to put her down, but none of us could pull him off her. Her eyes were bulging out like they were going to pop out of her head. She was on death rows. He lifted her up into the air and pinned her against the wall. As I told the story, I knew I'd been crying, but didn't bother to wipe the tears. I could feel the snot dripping out of my nose. Once I'd said all I wanted to say, I realised the hall had gone completely silent. They were all crying, or covering their mouths with their hands. I felt a bit embarrassed that I'd made such an exhibition of myself, but proud too, because I'd done what Dora had said. I'd been truthful and had a dramatic effect on everyone listening. Thank you, Steffi, said Dora, as if I'd just read a particularly nice poem. Who would like to go next? Now, I don't want to sound up myself or anything, but all the others were pretty crap actors. Dora's place was not the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. I would know, I've been there, and 6 other drama schools too. We had this teacher at school, Dave. He was our English teacher, and he used to do the school plays and stuff. And I really liked him. He was just different to other teachers that I had. He had a passion for the subject. He introduced us to Shakespeare, which most of the others thought were bollocks, but I really liked it. It just had this sort of rhythm to it that became understandable to me, like good rap music. He put on Romeo and Juliet for the parents on Founders Day, and even though I had to kiss creepy Malone, who played Romeo, I got a real buzz from it. Dave said I was good enough to act professionally, but when I went home and told to my parents, the consensus was that he was trying to get into my knickers, which I wouldn't have minded if he had, but he never tried, so it was a bit insulting, really. Only one drama school offered me a place, But Dave said that was brilliant. He said most people have to try year after year to get in and still don't. He said it was unusual for them to take someone so young. It was so encouraging and sweet. I just wanted to suck his face off. For a few days I was walking on air. I actually thought I might make it. But when I got home with Mum and Dad, we just realised that I couldn't afford it. Mum said there would be ways, like there were grants and stuff, but Dad went ballistic, shouting and yelling at me, asking me who I thought I was, that I deserved to have 3 years playing around at his expense. I was quite surprised at how adamant he was about the whole thing, like I suggested going on the game or something. Dave was more upset than I was. He just kept saying what a waste it was and how I'd have to make sacrifices if I wanted to make it. That really pissed me off. And I started shouting at him, saying he didn't know anything about my family and what my mum and dad had to go through for us. After that, I sort of stopped thinking about the acting thing. But when I heard about Dora's evening classes, I thought I'd go for it. I still had this longing inside of me, and it was only so long I could pretend it wasn't there until the longing started up again. It was usually after I was watching a really good television programme where someone gave a really great performance, or a standing ovation, or an award ceremony like the Oscars. I actually got an ache inside of me when I watched it, like a longing to be that person and to have all that love and applause directed at me. It's a bit sad, I know, but that was the way it was. And I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life longing for something and never actually trying to achieve it. That evening at the end of class, Dora asked me to hang on a second while everyone went out. The 2 visitors were still there, huddled in the corner, talking in low voices, avoiding everybody's eye contact. "I want you to meet someone," Dora said, taking me over. "This is Tom and Audrey. They're casting directors from the Towers." I couldn't quite believe it. I mean, the Towers was the biggest soap in the country. All my life I'd been reading and watching about the actors who starred in it. I couldn't quite believe that these 2 tatty specimens were part of this world of glamour and tabloid scandal. It was actually quite sad how much of a fan I was. When I talked to Dave about my addiction, he said it was because it resembled my life on the estate. Fuck off, I scoffed. You think anything that exciting happens on the estate? In the Towers, there's 3 murders a week. We're lucky to hear of a mugging. For some reason, he thought that was incredibly funny. That gave me the hump. "We're looking for a young girl to join a family that's moving into the area," the lady Audrey said. "You mean the Goddard's flat?" I said, slightly giving the game away. I should have been a little bit more cool. "Yes," she said sweetly. "You're a fan then?" "Yeah." I think I might have blushed. "We think you'd be great for the part," she said. "We want you to come down to an audition at the studio." "Okay." Okay. That was all I could think of to say, and I said it in the most pathetic little voice. I suppose it would have been a bit uncool to start screaming and shouting and jump and throw my arms around Audrey and Tom and kiss them all over, which is what I really wanted to do. Or maybe I just thought that if I let my excitement out of the box, I might never get it back in again and I'd explode into a million tiny pieces. So, that was the day that things started to get really weird.